The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
At that time, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman of that district came and called out, "Have pity on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not say a word to her. Jesus' disciples came and asked him, "Send her away, for she keeps calling out after us." He said in reply, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." But the woman came and did him homage, saying, "Lord, help me." He said in reply, "It is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Please, Lord, for even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters." Then Jesus said to her in reply, "O woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And the woman's daughter was healed from that hour. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Well, if you're keeping track, yes, it's me again. I drew the short straw, or should I say you drew the short straw. I promise you, though, things will get back to normal. We expect Father Clem to be with us next week, and he will be preaching. This weekend, St. Bartholomew is celebrating the feast day of St. Bartholomew, so Father James has a wonderful St. Bartholomew homily. So if you want to hear that, you can go down to St. Bartholomew for 10:45 and you'll catch that. But they're using different readings than we are, so I'm preaching. This week, I get little emails from various places that have different quotes or inspirational messages. And this past week, I got one from Dynamic Catholic. And it was a quote that Matthew Kelly had written for Discover Catholicism. And I want you to listen carefully because while it's very simple, it's also very profound. At least I found it so. So here's what Matthew had to say. He said, "You cannot become more like Jesus and at the same time stay as you are. You cannot become more like Jesus and at the same time stay as you are." And I just found that really profound, especially these past couple of weeks with a couple of deaths in my family and a parishioner that passed away, and then a young man that was killed in a house fire, the son of a deacon. You cannot become more like Jesus and at the same time stay as you are. And these readings today, they all reflect on the message of God wanting all of us, Jew and Gentile alike, to be saved from our sinfulness. We heard that this Canaanite woman who approached Jesus, she was not a Jew, but yet she realized that Jesus had the power to heal her daughter, and she was persistent in insisting that Jesus do something. I'm not going to focus a lot about that interaction. Scripture scholars have debated about what that exactly means. Was Jesus being really rude to her, or was he eliciting her faith and letting others see what great faith she had? I wish I had the faith of that Canaanite woman. St. Paul we've been hearing his letter to the Romans. The Romans are Gentiles, but they've come to believe that Christ is the Messiah. And so Paul is writing to them. And if you remember last week's reading that preceded this that we heard today, Paul was talking about how the Jews had rejected Jesus, had nothing to do with him, put him to death, and so they lost what was rightfully theirs. And so today he's saying, you Gentiles that believe in Jesus have much to look forward to, and hopefully, maybe, through your belief, the Jews will come back to believe in Jesus Christ. But I'd like to concentrate on the reading we heard from Isaiah for our first reading today. Isaiah lived some 750 years before Jesus came along. He was a prophet. God called him to speak on behalf of God. So we heard just a little passage about what Isaiah was saying. In Isaiah's time, Jerusalem and Judah was overrun by the Babylonians. And so they took most of the Jews and exiled them and made them live other than where their home was. So the first part of Isaiah is his warning to the people: if you don't act right, God is going to punish you. The second part is, you didn't change your ways, God is punishing you. You're going to be exiled. And the third part is the return to Jerusalem, the promised return, that God will forgive them for their unfaithfulness. So what does Isaiah say today? He says, the Lord says, observe what is right and do what is just. How do we do that? By becoming more like Jesus. And then he goes on to list some ways that we can do that for the Lord: by ministering to him, by loving the name of the Lord, by becoming his servants, keeping the Sabbath free from profanation. Sounds a lot to me like at least the first three of the Ten Commandments. Loving God, not taking his name in vain, and keeping holy the Sabbath. Becoming more like Jesus, loving God and loving our neighbor. This past Thursday, I went with a couple of ladies over to Planned Parenthood in Bloomington. And Thursday is an abortion day. And it was very sad, and I put some more comments in the bulletin about that. But I guess I've been wondering since that experience, if Jesus were alive today, what would he do about abortion in our country and in our world? And I think instead of being put to death by the Romans, Jesus today would be put to death by those who believe and practice abortion, who perform abortion. He would not stand for it. And so how do we become more like Jesus? How do we become more like him and not stay the way that we are? There's so much that needs to be done. God says if we minister to him, if we love his name, if we become his servants, if we keep the Sabbath free from profanation, if we hold to his covenant, he will be our God, we will be his people. If we do all that, then God will bring us to his holy mountain. If you paid any attention last week at all to my homily, you know that if God brings us to his mountain, that means we are ascending up closer to God. We're becoming more like Jesus. Keeping holy the Sabbath. I said last night, I'm preaching to the choir. You all are here. The ones that need to hear it are the ones that aren't here. So how do we do that? Again, we need to invite folks. Hey, I haven't seen you in church for a while. Why don't you come this Sunday? You can sit by us. Or what's keeping you away from church. I was talking to a woman this past week, and what seemed to be keeping her away was having a ride to church. And I said, this was in a different parish. I said, surely someone can give you a ride. There's lots of people that come to church. There's so many things that go on Sundays especially. And I think it's become a convenience for people to say, well, I got to do this or I got to do that. Someone said to me, I won't be at church. We're going to Kentucky Kingdom instead. It's kind of sad. The statistics tell us that only about 25% of Catholics, or probably any religion for that matter, attend on a weekly basis. So what can we do to get people brought in? How can we invite them to join us and hear the good news that we hear? Truly, if we want to be more like Jesus, we cannot stay the same. We have to change our ways. We have to do more. We have to love God more. We have to spend more time in prayer. When my cousin's son passed away at only 26 years of age, and we went to his funeral, I realized that there were a lot of people there that were disconnected from God. And I thought to myself, what can I do? What can I do? I live 4 hours away from them, but what can I do? And there may not be a whole lot I can do physically, but I can certainly pray for them. I can certainly fast. I can give out things that I like to help bring them maybe closer through my prayer to God and to His kingdom and to living right and to doing away with not making His Sabbath holy in their lives. At the end of Isaiah's reading, it says, "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples." Everyone is welcome. And we want to welcome those in. We want to ask people, hey, would you like to go to church with me? Have you ever thought about becoming Catholic? Have you ever thought about just coming and seeing what our worship service is like, what the Mass is like? Jesus is with us every day. He appears here on the altar. We receive Him, body and blood, soul and divinity, through the communion that we share. We hopefully become more like Jesus. But remember, you can't become more like Jesus and at the same time stay as you are.